Today, Angel is talking about how she could go through childhood lacking of love and experiencing traumas to feel fulfilled of love, confident, and in peace, thanks to therapies and tools that she learned on her journey. So, thanks to her testimonial, you will get a lot of tools, an idea to heal and grow. Angel Niewsvar, she's a Dutch young woman, a traveling mom. She's very interested in plant medicine, ancient wisdom, ceremonies, and rituals. Yeah, Angel. My question is for today about your own story, what you already succeeded to reach. And after that, we will see how you proceeded to succeed.
All right, so the goal that I managed to reach was, as a young child, I always had this hole of a feeling of abandonment. This was related to my parents. And after a long journey, I found love in myself, and the abandonment just poof away. So this is the goal that I would like to share that I managed to reach.
Okay, so your goal was how to feel love within, abundance in all the part of your life, to feel really fulfilled by this love.
Yeah, fulfilled, worthy, whole. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important, I will say, to create a dream life. It's a step we are really included in this power life. Do you remember when you started to feel, oh, okay, there is something wrong maybe in my life and I want to change something?
I think, to be honest, I don't really remember the time when I started feeling this hole, because I started living from 1 year already with my auntie. And very quickly, I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was about 4. So I got a lot of conversations with psychiatrists for, well, the idea of not living with my mom. So I got a lot of therapy on a young age. So there was like really young already created this separation between, being all right in the here and now, and to try to find something that is wrong with you or try to fix something. So I think from a really young age, this was already imprinted in myself. The only thing that shifted, I guess, was the problems that I found. So, when I was a young girl, it was ADHD. And when I was older, I tried to find help in addiction problems. And, the problem, it looked like it changed all the time. So, like, really the age of when this whole started, I cannot remember. But I do remember the journey of changing every time to another problem and trying to find the problem. And at some point, I realized that trying to find the problem is the problem. I was about 17 years old, and my mother didn't raise me because she had addictional problems. So I started smoking weed about when I was about 13, and this worked really good for me in this time, to cope with the world and with my feelings, or with not coping with the feelings. Um, at some point, I don't really remember the day, but I do remember the last time that I smoked weed before I went to a clinic. This was for children until 21 years old. And I just realized, I want a different life. I don't want to continue the same circle as, well, a lot of people in my family who are into this addictional circle, and they are not capable of getting out anymore because they have been in there for so long. So I remember when I was about 17, I was like, no, I want something different. I don't want to be in this same circle. And obviously in this time, I put the blame a lot with my parents. I remember having a relationship at this time, and this person also told me, like, you really, really need to stop smoking weed. And I had some problems in this relationship, and it was just clear for me, like, yes, this person has reason, I really need to do something different, and I couldn't seem to find the problem. So I was like, okay, this is the problem, the weed is the problem. I need to quit smoking. And I went to a clinic. Yeah, this was my first journey into the addiction. Well, the addiction problem is what I called it by then.
how many years or month you did to really come to the step, oh yes, it's really transformed?
From that moment, I think it's about 8 years. I think this really fulfillment is like recently that it really came into my life. I'm also, this is a part of the reason why I am in the Netherlands right now, is to see my father and my mother, to just see them for who they are, and seeing them without expectation or without the need for them to give me love out of parents or whatever, for just for me to see them and to just open my heart for them and without any expectation. So yeah, it's about 8 years that it took me to.
Yes, I like this sentence we say, invest on yourself, you invest on the future. 8 years, it's kind of a training, I will say, to become a great singer. We say you need 10 years, of training, so it's kind of the same.
Setting steps every time, and something pops up and another problem, and there's another solution, and you take on the road, and then yeah, before you know, the 8 years are, you're like, whoa, 8 years.
It's the journey was important, is not the goal but the path. What did you do?
Yeah, well, so as I said, like I first got into a program that was related to alcohol and drugs problems. And this is something that really, really helped me by this time. Right now, I'm not clean or sober anymore because I just feel different desires right now. But this period of sobriety has definitely been a really big one in my life. The support that I could get from the other people, the feeling of connectionness is something that I didn't experience in the Western culture as we have it. We are really used to judging other people, being mean to other people, instead of really having this close community and helping each other and uplift each other. And this is where I experienced this for the first time. And I could also get a lot of support from these people. Like we could call each other nonstop. We could really be there for each other. It actually helped me as well in my time during the plant ceremonies and plant medicine, when I connected with that. First, I did this program with the drug addiction, and as I said, this has really been helpful in the first steps. But at some point, I still felt something missing. The program that I was in, where I was living, was like a safe house. I have been here for about 9 months, for a period of 9 months. And we had like basically kind of a schooling system. We learned a lot about ourselves. We did a lot of exercises to get to know oneself, but also how the mind works. Also, I learned about meditation here for the first time. And in the beginning, you could really see me as this like being stubborn girl that doesn't want to go to school and doesn't want to listen. So I hated the meditation hours. I really hated it. I was always saying, no, I go to fall asleep. And what is this? I was really being stubborn. And I remember that at some point, I was already for a long time there, because the program for a lot of people took only 3 or 6 months. At some point, I grew to the second group of meditation. You had like the beginners group and then a group that was like a little bit further. And they did me in here, and I had to do a meditation of 30 minutes. And I was like, 30 minutes? You got to be kidding me. I really didn't understand the purpose of sitting for 30 minutes. And then I did the meditation, and it was a mountain meditation. And during the meditation, something just happened. I don't know how to describe it. And I remember coming out of this meditation, and I was like, whoa, what happened? I couldn't just explain what happened. My mind could just not make up words for what had happened. I think, yeah, if I would describe it now, left my body and just where it exploded into the universe and experienced wholeness for the first time. And there was another boy, and he was like laughing at me, and he was like, yeah, you meditated. And it was really, really funny.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first experience with a real meditation.
It was a guided meditation?
It was a guided mountain meditation where you basically go to sit down and you visualize yourself sitting in the mountain and at some point being the mountain.
Oh.
Now I like more meditations without sound or just being into nature, but especially in the beginning, it really, really helped, because the mind is so strong when you start meditating. It's like very difficult to be in silence for even 1 minute, and the guided meditation can really bring you back into the body. His name is Mooji, Mooji. And you can find him on YouTube, and he's great. He has loads of different meditation, but also podcast. I especially like him because a lot of meditated guidings are in constant talking. Like they don't actually leave space for being into space. So what is happening then is that you do get back in the body, but there is no space to go behind the body. And what I love about his meditations is that he is guiding, but he also leaves a lot of space for silence so that you can experience what is happening in this silence. It's really great.
Oh, thank you for this sharing. Perfect. I will let you continue this journey. So you were in this center, I will say, to see what you started to continue to build, to rebuild, I will say, or to reprogram.
Maybe something to mention as well is that in this center there was a woman who did a backpacking trip to Thailand for 3 months, and she was completely alone. And this was something that inspired me as well. But after this 9 months, first I go back to my old city, and I got completely back into old behavior. I think it took me 2 weeks to go with some friends and drink a lot of alcohol and smoke weed and go to party again, just back into it. And this took on for some months. And then at some point, there was like this other click moment, because sexuality was also a big thing for me. And I came into a situation with a guy, and he wanted to have sex with me, and I actually learned in this program to give my boundaries, when something doesn't feel right anymore. And I gave my boundary very clear to this person, and this person responded basically like he didn't care. And this was a moment for me when I was like, hey, what happened? I learned to respect myself, I learned to give boundaries, to listen to myself, to be myself. And right now I'm not being anymore who I want to be. So this was another click moment, and I got involved with people again who are from this program. And I remember this conversation of the girl that went backpacking, and this inspired me so much to just go out in the world with only a bag, nothing else, and just to be completely free from anything. So in about 6 months, I saved enough money and I left to Australia. And it felt so powerful. I think it's the most amazing and powerful thing that I ever have done, to just go with my bag. And I was walking in this city completely alone, and this feeling of power just rised up in me. I was like, if I can do this walking here alone to the other side of the world, I can do anything. So I spent some months in Australia, about 7 months, and I was sober during this time. I learned a lot about myself. I first started dating. Actually, I realized it when I was there that I always had boyfriends and well wild nights, but I never really went on a date. So this was really a nice experience to go through as well. And then before I went back home again, I was like, Australia is kind of Western and I want something different. So I went to India alone without a plan. It was a really, really chaotic journey. I ended up in an Amas ashram. I stayed here about 2 or 3 weeks, and it was really funny because the whole point of a spiritual journey is about losing the ego. And I remember at some point sleeping and waking up and being so confused because I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. I need to go home. I need to know who I am again. So I basically rushed home. The universe gave me a little sign by missing my plane, but my ego just was like, no, I buy a new flight, I go home now. Then I got home again, and I was changed. I was completely changed, and I didn't expect the world to be exactly the same here when I would come back. So I got into this circle, I got back into the old patterns, I got back into my old people, and at some point this feeling arose again, rised again, like, hey, what happened? I'm completely again in this pattern. When I was in the ashram, I actually heard for the first time about ayahuasca, a plant medicine. And I didn't want to know anything about this in that moment because I was doing a program, I was being sober, I didn't use any drugs. I was like, no, you go away with your plants. I don't want anything from this. But then again, I heard the name again from a friend of mine, and I saw something on Instagram, and my friend told me that he did an ayahuasca ceremony in the Netherlands. So this feeling of confusion that came in me, and also a big one that always comes with it, is the feeling of not wanting to live anymore. This whole and just being like, I don't know it anymore, so I don't want to live anymore. This is something that arises in me. I can see these patterns of thought coming when life is throwing difficulties at me. It's like, no, I want to run away. I don't want to be here anymore. So I talked with this friend and I did this ayahuasca ceremony. From the moment that I entered this space, I just felt home. It was the sitting in the circle. That was the first thing that was like, whoa, we're connected. We're sitting in the circle, and the warmth that came with it, and the freedom that came with, and the people that just were so accepting and not looking at what kind of clothes you have, or if you have a watch, or that was like completely irrelevant, not important at all. So open, so honest. It was beautiful. And during my ceremony, I just felt so much love. I actually got inspired by the movie that's called The Last Shaman. It's a documentary about a boy who is depressed and doesn't want to live anymore, and he's going to the Amazon, and he's basically saying that this is his last hope. And I got a little bit inspired, a little bit a bad inspiration maybe, but anyway, it was like, okay, this feeling of not wanting to live anymore just comes back every time. So I'm just gonna put all my hope into this plant, and this plant really rewarded me as well. I really put in the work before the ceremony as well, but the love, and it was just so much proof for me that I wasn't crazy all this time. I was just right. The world is kind of crazy. It was more like a longer journey. So I did this ceremony, everything was great. I felt this love. I thought my problems would be over. And I got back home, and the problems didn't go away. It popped up again. I was like, oh, what do I need to do with this? It's this feeling of wanting to fix it, and we have to fix it now. And in the same week, I also watched the documentary about minimalism. So as the mind goes, it's always like finding the problem and here is the solution. And so minimalism, this is the problem of the world, and here is my solution. I sold all my stuff, sold my everything I had, my room and everything, and I went on with my backpack again. And this is probably one of the most confusing periods of my life, because now I knew that I wasn't crazy, that there was more to life, but these patterns were still with me, and I couldn't seem to get out. And this was very confusing because I see the road, I know it, but it doesn't work. Like, what's happening? So I got the feeling that basically everything was coming on my path, and I couldn't make it sense. So I from the one place to the other place, and eventually back home again. And couple of depressed months led me to, okay, I want to know more about this plant medicine. And I thought some time for going back into this program of with the alcohol, but this didn't feel right anymore, because in my opinion they had some limitations, and I wanted to go behind these limitations that the plant did give me. I talked to my shaman who went to Peru, and I went to the Amazon, and I did here a plant-based diet. I just had this feeling for a long time that I just want to be alone. Just leave me alone and let me get inside. And I did a diet about 2 months in the Amazon. This was really a really big change. Yeah, this definitely helped a lot in my process. It wasn't easy at that point, obviously. Something that really helped me more than I can imagine is the nature. Like, obviously, I did plant medicines here. This helped a lot as well in my process, but I mean just more being in nature, to live in nature. Especially here where I'm in the Netherlands, all the nature that we have, mostly all the nature, is planted by humans. And even if we live within nature, we don't really live in nature. We live next to it or nearby it. We don't really live in it. And being in this casita that was completely open, and just, falling asleep with the sounds of the animals. The first nights you think everything is gonna kill you. You're really scared. Like, what do I hear? It's coming to attack me. It's crazy stuff. But the more and the more you start to appreciate it, and you start to see how much alive it is, and that not all the plants are the same. They're just green plants. No, they're all unique, and they all have a different vibration and they all sing a different song. I think this is something that really helped me in my own healing process and still helps me when I feel overwhelmed or when I just don't know it anymore. I spend some hours into nature and I can just feel this peaceful silence sink in again of, everything being okay and being right, and there is no problem. There's only a problem in the mind.
It's a mix in between to feel really safe within and to feel rooted and to feel this confidence, to let it go, to release, to surrender, and really to be in the moment present. So I can imagine that it asks to feel really confident and safe and in peace, to accept, what the life is. And I know the medicine plant and the way that it shows me, for example, it's the way that everything is perfect. The destruction and the construction, everything is perfect. It's not like there is something beautiful and the other thing is ugly. What the medicine plant shows me, it's no, everything is as the same level and everything is perfect and everything is like a balance. And all this within you, it's all this that you are seeing, it's you and it's a part of yourself and you are the universe and the universe is within you. So what I learned is that we are connected in with everything all the time, and that everything is perfect actually and everything is beautiful, and also the destruction. It can be hard to hear this, but it's really the way that the medicine plant shows me. If you can tell the exercises or practices that you did and to feel this wholeness and etc. It's a lot of things, I will say. And you talk about boundary, you talk about limits. So if you can give some tools how to learn to really feel your limit and how to tell it, and to really be clear with the people and to respect it and to be respected.
I'll start with the limits. This was a really big one, and I didn't even know about limits, I guess, in this point of my life. I got really, really young, already involved with sexual activities, already before I, well, actually understood what I was doing. So I remember being in this program with the Safe House. This is the same woman that told me about the backpacking, and I in this program it was also not allowed to have sex, which I did, which normally would kick me out, but I honestly told this to the woman because I felt this discomfort and confusion in myself, and I told to her, like, I'm sorry, but when I get into this kind of situation, it's like I just don't know how to get myself out anymore. And I really, really meant this by then, and for some people it might look the weird, or some guys, they're also saying, for example, yeah, but she did it herself. And this is a really easy way of looking at it, because maybe some persons get involved but they're not actually getting involved, but they just don't have the tools yet, to show what's actually inside of themselves, what's inside in their hearts. So this woman explained to me something actually very, very simple, and I actually had to ask for clarification because I didn't get it. She said, if you cannot get yourself out of a situation like that anymore, then don't get yourself in a situation like that anymore. And I was like, yeah, well, you can say that easily, I was like, tell me more. I don't get this." And she was like, well, where is the point where you feel like you cannot get out of it anymore? And I was like, well, when we are together in a bed and they start touching me and I kind of say that I don't want it, but they don't respect this boundary, and I just go with the flow because it feels like I don't have this option. So she said, okay, if you feel like you cannot get out on this point anymore, then make sure that you don't get with with a guy in a house alone if you don't expect them to have sex with you. And it was really like, whoa, that sounds simple, And I actually took her advice, and this actually worked for me for a very, very long time. Like when I got back into Groningen, I came into this situation with this guy that I just told about, and where I was like, okay, this is my boundary. But I stood by this boundary. So this was the first time after we had this conversation that I entered in a space where I was with a guy alone, and this conversation was really in my head, and I was like, yeah, I shouldn't have been in this room right now. And this was my wake up call, like, hey, what am I doing here? How did I get here? So when I went to Australia, this was also a big one that I took, and I didn't have sex with anyone for about 2 years because I was really, really watching my own boundary, and I didn't get in any nasty situations because I was very watching it. But it was also the first time that I actually understood about where is a boundary, when do you feel a boundary, or when do you get over a boundary. This is like said before, like I didn't understood it. I was like, yeah, but I'm getting over my boundary, but I don't really know where, or I don't really know how to get back from it. So to just have this like physical actually line, like, okay, don't get with a person into a room, like a guy alone. This was really like clear. This was a boundary that I set for myself, and where I learned about how do you set a boundary. What is a boundary? It's basically a rule that you agree on with yourself. And I always like was this person that didn't like rules, like a real rule breaker. But I also learned with this that sometimes rules can be fine. You set the rules for yourself. This is the same that I have with structure. Like I hate structure basically, but it helps me sometimes. And my mom the other day said, like, you don't have to take a structure from someone else. You can make your own structure that works for you and fill it with the things that work for you.
Yeah, this is leads me to the way where about the beliefs. What it can brings me, for example, to do something that I don't want, it's my beliefs who comes from my education, my program that I ate, I would say ate in my childhood or in my transformation or in my journey as a young adult or something like that. It's some beliefs that I ate like a food, and I took mine, and a lot of things that I can do without my agreement, my really agreement, if I am really connected to myself. It comes from a lot of beliefs. So I think it asks to reprogram and to change the beliefs. For example, Don Miguel Ruiz, who is a shaman, he talks about agreement, and it's the same kind of beliefs. And you can change your agreements when you want, if you want to create today or now a new life or a new personality or a new power or a new things. You just have to look on your beliefs and your agreement within, and to feel, oh, and your value also, and to feel, oh, okay, this value, this agreement will not help me in this new personality that I want to experience. Okay, I remove this and I change my agreement, and now I will choose agreement who will push me, who will push me further, who will help me to succeed. It's just that for me it's a combination in between listen yourself, so really go within, like you said, and also listen the beliefs that there is within. We will tell, oh, you have to go out, or you have to say yes, you have to be a good woman, so you have to say yes. All these beliefs that it can comes from society, education, a lot of things, we will push the person to act out, or to do something that she doesn't want. For example, what you are practicing to transform your beliefs in your life.
So I think there's two big things that I did that helped me a lot in this process, and one of them is diary writing. I have, I think, 5 full books of diary writing, which have given me a lot of insight of my beliefs. So someone that really helped me is Abraham Hicks, and she is channeled by Esther Hicks, also capable of finding on YouTube. And this is really someone that helped me a lot about learning to to become aware in the first place of certain beliefs.
What did you use as tool, in your daily life, maybe to transform your beliefs and to follow your own limit and to say, okay, I want this, I want that, I say no to this, and etc.
So I did affirmation writing. I had at some point, a paper on my mirror with affirmations that I said to myself every day. And, it feels a little bit like fake it till you make it. In the beginning, it feels discomfort. It helped me a lot to say it actually really in the mirror so that you can see yourself, because you will also feel that you are lying to yourself. You will feel this, which is, yeah, it felt really weird. You're talking into a mirror, so you're seeing yourself, and then I'm got to say to myself, you're beautiful, and then the mind pops in, and it's like, no, but I'm not beautiful. And the proof that I had was the fact that I didn't, that my parents didn't raise me. This was a belief that I hold. This was my proof why I was not worthy or why I was not enough, because even my parents didn't want me. So if they didn't want me, then why would I want myself? And when I was in the Amazon, I discovered a really weird pattern in this. There was this belief of not being wanted by my parents. I also discovered that I always said that I didn't want children, and this came from this belief of not being capable of giving love. So, and then at some point I got my son, and the pet, I obviously want to do things different, and then the pattern was like this: my mom doesn't want me, so I'm not capable of loving, so I cannot give my son love, so I can better run away from his life. Like, that is exactly doing the same thing as that happened to me. And it was so funny to see this pattern. I was like, okay, what I want is to give my son a lot of love. And the conclusion of my mind is it's better to run away. It was really, really funny to see how messed up it is. Like the desire of wanting to give love, and this pattern of thought that drives me to leaving.
So your tools what was to repeat this sentence.
Yes, I said this to myself for some time. I also, like, a big one that I started doing daily was meditation, and reading different kind of spiritual books. Something that really works for me are artworks, like cutting pieces and from magazines and stuff like that, and making visualization boards with different kind of topics. They gave me a lot of insight in what is in myself as well. As I said before, diary writing, it hasn't really gotten a lot of insight in my mind, and also in the messed up patterns, or as well as different views. One day you can write something about a topic, it can be really negative, and the next day it's something completely different, and you're like, what is real? Which one is real? Well, they're both not real. So this is definitely a big one. Podcast listening is something that I at some point did daily. Like every day I try to listen to a podcast from different kind of people, and did this also helped me a lot to get insight in how you can think different, because it sometimes can be difficult, and like, yeah, okay, I am thinking like this, but now what am I gonna do? How am I gonna see this different? And so listening to podcasts really gave me insight in this.
Thank you for all these tools. Just to tell to everybody that I will put below all the links, and you can find everything that we are talking about now. Thank you for all these tools.
Yes, thank you very much. I felt for some time that it is ready now that the time is ready to start sharing my story and inspire other people as well. And this was a really beautiful opportunity for that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Angel. Thank you for your presence. I wish that this episode of Tailor-made Life was really nourishing for you. Thank you for subscribing to this channel to make it alive. And if you want to work with me, I offer you a free phone call, and you will find the link in the description. So see you soon and have a great day.